We do not, live on what we did yesterday or last year. It's a new season. We got to start all over again, and that's what I say about myself. I've kind of forgotten the fact that, I was most valuable player last year. It's in the back of my mind, but it's not in the front, because now I'm trying to get myself in shape, and maybe I can be most valuable player again, or either at least help this team to win another world championship, and hopefully another guy off our team would be the most valuable player. I would prefer that, to be honest with you.
Really?
I would like for Tony Perez to be the most valuable player, because he is the most valuable player. He's a great player. He's a great RBI man, and he's a great clutch hitter. And he doesn't get the credit due to him. He's one of those underrated stars, as they say. But he's such a great player and a great competitor that really I would be more pleased for him than anybody else.
Is it going to be tougher, do you feel, this year to win your division?
No. I know it sounds funny. It may sound like I'm cocky or something, but I don't think so, because I think the one thing that we have going for us is the new guys we had last year were really rookies. When we got a Ken Griffey, a George Foster, a Raleigh Eastwick, a Will McEnany. All these guys came through for us and helped us win a pennant last year. Now they've had 1 year in the big leagues. They know themselves better, and they know the league better. They know what to expect, from other teams now. So we can't help but be better. And Johnny Bench, Pete Rose, Tony Perez, and myself, hopefully we're all going to stay at our peak and improve a little bit. So we know that those other guys are going to improve because they're young and they were inexperienced last year. I've kind of forgotten about that. It's a new season. I got to start all over again. They say
But is it tough to forget?
No, not really with me, because the guys around here won't let me remember. They keep asking me, what have you done for us this year, instead of last year. So our ball club is made up of they have a lot of real good players over here. And I think that really helps me a lot, and it keeps one guy loose. Pete and John will tease me all the time and, keep riding you, keep pushing you. And we keep pushing each other, and I think it really helps each individual, and we work well as a unit, too.
You mentioned the word tease. I'm watching you out here. You guys get along better probably than any club I've ever seen. Is it like this all the time?
Yeah. It's funny. Our ball club is it's a very unique team. I'm just proud to be a part of it, because everybody gets along. There are no cliques. There's no nothing like that. Everybody goes out together. Everybody talks together. Everybody, kind of floats around the locker room together. I never could understand how the Oakland A's could do anything because they didn't get along. But it makes it a lot more fun to go to the ballpark when you're going to be sitting next to a guy that you enjoy talking to, or he's a good friend of yours, and we'd all do anything for each other. And I think that's really the whole theme behind the Cincinnati Reds. I know we're a very unique team and different from any other team I've ever seen.
Fortunately, I was in the National League the last 3 years as a coach at Montreal, and have seen a lot of our players from the opposing dugout. But it's nothing like being with them and living with them and traveling with them and managing them. But so far, Bob, we've had an excellent camp, and some of our older players have really shown great leadership ability, and we've encouraged that, because if they take it upon themselves to do the job, then that makes it easier on everyone.
What do you think is your biggest problem at this point with the club?
Well, I'd have to say that deciding on which players are going to play where in our infield, and the making up of our bullpen, I would say that's the most vital things that we have to make up our mind about, Bob.
One of your older players I talked to, Dave May, said, and I think it's a good attitude, he said there's no place to go but up.
Well, certainly that's the truth in Atlanta, because that's a situation that had to be turned around, because I was born in the South and lived there all my life, and I'd like to be partly responsible for making something really successful on the Atlanta sports scene.
I was disappointed the way I hit last year, and so it's really imperative that I get off to a good start this year, or I might not have a job. I did really have a struggle last year, and it was really puzzling. It wasn't one of those things where I was just completely outmanned the whole year. I would swing the bat good for a week, and then for 2 weeks I wouldn't swing the bat good. So I really think that it's just some bad habits I developed, and I plan on changing a few things down here in spring training as far as where I hold my bat and several other adjustments, and I think that it might help me. At least I hope so. I have to try something.
Well, now, people have been trying to talk you into retirement for years.
Listen, something tells me that I'm going to be playing for 4 or 5 more years, Jane, and I really feel that way, and I honestly think I am.
Well, I think last year everyone says, well, maybe we can do it, and we came up a little short, but going through the pennant run as we did, I think all the confidence is up, and we know we can win now if we just play consistent baseball.
What about Larry Boa? You had a sensational year. You came in second behind Concepcion in the All-Star balloting, 305. You've got to be happy with the way you performed.
Yeah, I'm really happy, and I think a lot has to do with where I hit in my lineup. I'm hitting second. Dave Cash, the super leadoff man. We have Schmidt, Lazinski, and Dick Allen following, so I'm getting some pretty good pitches to hit.
Does that mean now this year that pitchers may not be giving you the good pitch, that some pressure may be on Larry Boa, knowing what you can do now?
Well, I think there'll be a little pressure, but I'm still going to get the good pitch if I'm patient, because they don't want to walk me, like I said, to get to Schmidt, Allen, or Lazinski. So I have some good lumber coming up behind me, so they're going to have to pitch to me.
I feel very good about Bill Singer, who we obtained in a trade for Jim Spencer. Nelson Briles, right-handed pitcher, who I feel could be the sleeper on the staff. Although I think that Singer could be, and I usually don't go out on a limb with pitchers, could be the comeback pitcher of the year as far as I'm concerned, because he's a great competitor. I've been asked about Jim Gideon and David Clyde about their future this year. My theory with them is this, that if they cannot be starting pitchers on our staff, then I think they should go to AAA and pitch every 4 or 5 days.
Everyone says that the Rangers are definitely hurt with the absence of Ferguson Jenkins. Are they?
Well, anytime you lose a pro like Ferguson Jenkins, you might be hurt. But I think the addition of Bill Singer and Nelson Briles will offset that.
I think for our ball club, it might even be a stroke of luck that we're going to be starting late, because it only takes us about 3 weeks and we got it together. Because we have a team that knows each other. We've played together now for 4 or 5 years, especially our infield. So we don't need as long as like maybe some other ball clubs.
Mm-hmm. Looking back, what do you think this club's going to have to do a little differently than they did last year to overtake Boston?
We have to get off to a good start. The Orioles, the last 4 years that I've been with them in the big leagues, have always been a strong finishing ball club. September is our best month.
Exactly.
For some reason, we get it together in September and we play really good ball. And the same thing happened last year. April and May were our downfall, because we played about between 350 and 400 percentage baseball during those 2 months. And we finished really strong in August and September, but we couldn't quite catch the Red Sox. They beat us by 4 games or something like that, So if we can just get ourselves together from April and then play the kind of ball that we can play from April all the way to September, there's no doubt in my mind that we have the better ball club. Even with Boston making a couple good trades, I still think we got the best ball club. But we just have to get off to a good start.
I don't know, the older you get, the more you got to prove. You got to prove you can do the job again and again, and here I am again, and hoping to prove it again. I still think I can pitch another 3 or 4 years. I feel just great. Seem to be throwing the ball pretty good, so maybe some of my experience I can help some of the young kids we have, because we have some very good young pitchers with very fine arms.
Let me ask you this. Does it bother you that people accuse you of throwing a wet one?
No, I might try that today. No, I wouldn't really, folks. No, but I might go through the motion, something like that.
But does it bother you that people accuse you, or do you like it?
No, I think it's part of my game plan, and I like for them to look for something else, because sometimes my stuff is not too good. If they're looking for something else, it might make it a little better.
During spring training, when no one's uptight and people are loose, do you try and slip one by and see if someone notices it?
Well, you got to see if it works. You got to get it in shape too. No, not really. Not really.
Well, I'm very impressed with the man. I think technically he really knows the game, and he's a man that gains the respect of the players, which is very important. And it was his first year. He had some things to learn, how to handle players and whatnot, but I think he really adjusted very well. And of course now the pressure of being the first black manager is off of him. I think the press isn't going to harass him like they did last year, and he can go right to work and do the job that he's there to do, and I think he's going to do a really fine job.
Was there any pressure on the players playing under the first black manager?
Well, because we really liked him and respected him so much, I think we might have been trying too hard to start really fast and show the press that here's a guy that could do it and deserves to be here, and it wasn't just because he's black that he's here. And I think because we wanted to do well so much for him that we might have been pressing a bit too.
"54,000 people, all the new Yankee Stadium can hold, turned out to watch her debut today. Well, they called it her debut, but she's really the old $6 million lady born 53 years ago, dressed up in a brand new $100 million dress. Some New Yorkers don't think that's any way for a city that's broke to spend its money. A few hundred demonstrators protested, but they were well outnumbered by those who came to cheer. The stadium looks terrific, all gleaming white on the outside, blue paint and fresh grass on the inside. She has new outfield walls, nice and padded so the outfielders won't hurt themselves, and new dimensions, and a new playing field that's fully 5 feet lower than the old one used to be. She has new parking lot, new wider seats, new escalators, new refreshment stands, and press box, and stadium club, new clubhouse, new everything. They tore her apart while the Yankees were camping out in Queens the last couple of years, but they tried to keep some of the old familiar features. Her graceful shape, her address in the Bronx, her name, and of course her memories. They wouldn't want to touch those. Nobody here needed the plaques in center field to remind them of the Iron Horse, Lou Gehrig, or the Yankee Clipper, Joltin' Joe, of power and style and class. Of perfect moments, even a perfect World Series game in this imperfect world. Or of the Babe. For this is the place all shining and new where baseball's most glorious legend grew. New York couldn't afford what they had to pay, but they went and did it anyway. For no matter how much they change her face, there's a spirit here they can't erase. It will still be the house that Ruth built. Charles Osgood, CBS News, New York.
Well, basically, I think it's because that kids don't want to catch anymore. It's a tough position, and they would rather play shortstop or pitch or play the outfield or something like that. It runs in cycles. Sometimes you have a great deal of talent in the outfield, and then again in pitching, and then in infield, and just once in a great while you may come up with some pretty good catching around the country. But it has been a weak spot in the past few years. I think you'll find that this is a weakness in all our organizations, is in the catching department, and I possibly say that because I was a catcher, and I'm probably more critical of catching than I am anything else.
On a reasonable amount of money, I don't care to really be the highest paid player in the game. I'm not so sure that I should be. I think we should reserve that kind of thinking for those kind of salaries for people like Henry Aaron. I'm not a catfish hunter. He was in a different case, a different situation. So I'm not saying that I should make that kind of money either. But the fact that I will be a free agent in a few months is something that needs to be dealt with. And getting me in the ballpark to be paid commensurate with some of the other fellows, I think is realistic too. You know, if you have any kind of business sense at all, you're concerned about your image at all, concerned about being with the team, being any kind of human being that's going to be liked, you don't give ultimatums. You know, if you're dealing with a guy like a Jerry Hoffberger, who owns American Oil, National Brewing Company, and Carling breweries, you know, and you're Reggie Jackson, you don't tempt a guy like that for him to slap your hand or slap you in the face or turn his back on you, and I definitely did not want to get that kind of thing going.
Well, I just believe that, you know, there's nothing wrong with being enthusiastic.
Mm-hmm. How much advice and how much you get involved with your manager, Dave Bristol?
Well, I mean, you know, he's calling the shots. Mm-hmm. I'm just trying to help as much as I can without interfering.
You have made some pretty good trades, I think. I think the Atlanta fans and you must feel that things are going to be a little bit better.
We've got a real solid club that's playing together and it's got a lot of good spirit, as you can see. And I'm really excited about them. I don't know how far we'll go, but I don't think we're going to end up with a handful of mud.
In the fourth inning of the Dodger game against the Cubs, Willie Thomas and his 11-year-old son jumped the right field fence and ran onto the playing area. This kind of thing happens in Major League parks, but today's action was different. The two men suddenly showed why they were there. They brought an American flag with them and attempted to burn it. The Cubs' Rick Monday in center field raced to his right and grabbed the flag before the two could burn it. It was an awful gesture on their part, but Monday's action got him a standing ovation and it should have made people feel real good. Outside of Chicago, Monday is the opposition with baseball fans, but after today, people across the U.S. will never forget, no matter what Monday does, that play will be regarded as the best one of his career.
No, I'm taught to forgive thy enemies, and I have enemies, they don't have one on this side.
There's some question about you perhaps having some sort of verbal agreement with Brad Corbett on a 2-year extension of the contract that you had here with the Rangers. Is that correct?
Well, that's a fact. Not only with Brad Corbett, with all the directors that were in that meeting. They all voted me 2 more years of my contract, and after this season's over, I have 2 more years on a Ranger contract.
This was something that was not brought out publicly until recently. Wonder why at this time?
Well, I was trying to get Brad to settle on the side without bringing this thing out to the public so the public can read about it, but apparently he's refused to listen or talk to anybody about it, and I told the president of our ball club about it, and he said, Billy, I don't blame you one bit, and this is the route I'm taking right now.
You feel that this is just going to add fuel to the rivalry?
Well, there's no rivalry as far as I'm concerned. I've got a job to do, and the job is to try to win the pennant for the New York Yankees. I've also obligated my family as far as money is concerned, and I'm going to get what I think is coming to me.
It was quite simply Hollywood stuff, a manic-depressive Jekyll Hyde affair that featured errors by usually flawless opposition players. An almost triple play almost made by Barnum and Bailey Boston base running. Weird and bizarre with a rare inside-the-park home run hit by the rookie just called up from the minors. Wacky with clutch hits from a lineup seemingly dreamed up by an old St. Louis Browns fan. And Bleacherite singing God Bless America. The gloom was gone from the Red Sox locker room as reporters crowded around the rookie, who was describing for the 34th time how he'd smashed his home run.
When I went around first and saw the ball hit the wall, I saw it bounce away from me. I thought sure I could go to third. I didn't know that I could make it home because I really didn't know if I had enough in me to go on home. But I never thought that. I've never had an inside the park home run before, and I don't know if I'll ever have another one. I don't know how fast I was running, but I know I hit third. I wasn't moving very fast.
You know, anytime you play a team like New York and a Baltimore, 8 games, you say, well, as we split, that was a good trip. But you can't say that because of the type of ball the Yankees are playing. They've just been outstanding baseball, and if you're going to try to catch them, you have to play better baseball than they're playing, and we're playing good baseball, but not enough to catch the Yankees right now.
This weekend, the Yankees and the Indians will celebrate the 4th of July with a 4-game series in Cleveland that promises some real fireworks. Robinson hopes the biggest booms come from Tribe bats. For CBS, Jim Mueller in Cleveland.
You'd always like to be more, but I'm happy about it right now, really.
What has been the difference, you think, of this ball club this year jumping out to such a quick start? Part of it has been Boston and Baltimore having some problems, but the Yankees have just played great baseball.
Well, I think it's the way we've played. Right from spring training, we've played aggressive baseball. We've forced the opposition to make mistakes. We're playing together as a team. We're getting timely pitching. It's a combination of a lot of things.
He got the nickname because somebody thought with his yellow curls and unusual manner, he resembled the character Big Bird on public television's kiddie show Sesame Street. Mark Fidrich's mannerisms on the mound have made bird watching the #1 sport in town. He's not like other pitchers. Other pitchers don't smooth out the mound by hand the way he does before every inning. Other pitchers don't move around and wiggle and waggle and flap the way he does. Nor do they talk to themselves out loud or to the ball, which the bird has been known to do. And where other pitchers end an inning by casually walking off the mound, the bird runs as if someone might grab his seat on the bench otherwise. So phenomenal has bird mania become in Motown that when Fidrich wins, the fans stay in the stands and insist he come out for a bow. Against Kansas City the other night, he scattered 9 hits and allowed only 1 run, but the Tigers were shut out, so Fidrich lost. But no fair weather fanatics are the Bird fans. A half hour after the last out, they were calling for him. And the security people finally told Fidrich he better come out because otherwise the people would not go home. How long this will all last, nobody can say. But young Mark Fidrich has everything a fellow could ask for right now. If he could make one wish, it would be for a curveball. Meantime, they say he's taken to writing down the attendance figures for his games inside his locker. Just for future reference, you know. Hail to thee, blithe spirit. Bird, thou never wert. Charles Osgood, CBS News, Detroit.
In an appearance billed as non-political, President Ford throws out 2 game balls to get the 47th All-Star Game underway in Philadelphia. Representing the National League, Johnny Bench. The American League, Thurman Munson. The fans are getting a look at Detroit's Mark the Bird Fidrich on the mound. It's the bottom of the first as Pete Rose singles up the middle, setting up the National League's first run. Next up, the Dodgers' Steve Garvey belts one to right field. The Tigers' Rusty Staub can't make the play, and Garvey triples, scoring Rose. The Reds' George Foster later sacrifices and scores Garvey, giving the National League a 2-0 lead. Catfish Hunter comes in for Fidrich in the third, trying to halt the National League attack. With Joe Morgan on base, George Foster hits his first All-Star homer. It's the National League 4, the American League 0. Top of the third, the Mets' Tom Seaver pitching. Boston's Freddie Lynn slams one over the right field wall, eliminating a shutout. But it's not good enough. The senior circuit has a big 8th inning with Dave Cash scoring on a Ken Griffey single and Cesar Cedeno hitting a 2-run homer. The final score, the National League 7, the American League 1. The MVP All-Star Award goes to George Foster. Sam Chulin, CBS News.
1 year ago, Boston was floating atop the American League East on their way to the pennant. But in '76, a season-long batting slump has left the Red Sox floundering below 500 and all but out of the pennant race. So Boston made the traditional move, firing manager Darrell Johnson and naming coach Don Zimmer as interim skipper.
Darrell Johnson can't hit, and this has been our whole problem. We haven't hit, and we haven't scored runs, so it's the hitters that didn't hit the reason that Darrell Johnson is fired. And I don't think none of us are smart enough to know that Jimmy Rice was going to be hitting 245 and Doug Griffin was going to be hitting 205 and Burleson hitting 230 and Evans hitting 250. I didn't think any of us are smart enough to know what they were going to hit. They all hit good last year, and why wouldn't we think that they would hit again this year? But like I say, it hadn't turned out.
There have been persistent rumors that the public hassle over the free agent status of Fred Lynn, Carlton Fisk, and Rick Burleson had split the club.
It might have had an effect earlier in the season, I think. I don't know what the other guys felt. Nobody ever said anything to me about it. But maybe they had questions in their mind about us staying or what, I don't know. But I don't think there's any problems now.
I don't know that, and I'm not going to get into it myself, except that I am going to have a talk with them tomorrow. I don't care whether they play out their options or whether they go to Tokyo next year. The only thing that I want the 3 of them to play as hard as they can play as long as I manage this ball club.
Zimmer admits a pennant may be completely out of reach, but that a good finish could mean he'd be back to manage Boston next year. But the nagging question of whether the 3 free agents will be back cannot possibly be answered by Daryl Johnson's firing. This is Norm Hitzges reporting.
I think that, after 20 some odd years, you get to a point where you no longer can conquer anything. Baseball is beginning to be a job to me, of course. I've been having some nagging problems as far as injuries are concerned. You don't heal as quickly as you did when you was 18 years old, and all these things have a sort of an unpositive attitude, and you look at it saying, well, this is the end. I've had a fantastic career, and I've loved every minute of it. I met some fabulous people, I met some great people, and I met some that wasn't so great, but I've enjoyed every moment of it, and I think this is just about the end.
We've been kind of struggling a little bit. Our hitting has been inconsistent. We'll score one night a lot of runs, and then we go a few days and don't get many runs at all. Overall, our pitching's been pretty consistent, so we just got to go out here and run the bases and hit and score as many runs as we can, just scratch it out every night, and then we'll be all right. But it's still going to take 95 victories to win this thing.
I think it's going to take good, hard, tough baseball. We realize the guys are getting a little tired now, but it's just one of those things where it separates the men from the boys, and we just have to go out and play good defense and just a good game that we have been playing all year.
Hopefully, it won't come down to the last week of the season or the last 2 or 3 games of the season to see who wins our pennant. Hopefully it'll be about 2 or 3 weeks to the season's still remaining and it's decided, and we can sit back and relax a little bit and get ready for the playoffs.
In 1971, Minoso won the batting title in the Mexican League at age 48. Last year, Minnie led his team with 16 stolen bases at age 52.
How are the reflexes?
Well, so far pretty good, because I have been playing in Mexico, and I was play every day, travel every day, not like we do here in the plane. We used to travel in the bus, and I used to get up there and do the same way that the rest of the guys do it. So I think I might not be a 15 years or 16 years old rookie, but I still thinking they're not going to get me so easy.
The Royals were leading 1-0 in the third when Sox outfielder Alan Bannister doubled down the right field line. 1 run scored easily, but Chicago's Ralph Garr ran right through the stop sign at third and had no chance to reach the plate. So the score remained a 1-1 game until the top of the fourth. That's when the Sox committed one of their 3 errors. Catcher Jim Essien threw wildly to second, allowing Hal McRae to score easily from third base. The Royals led 2-1, and that's the way it ended. Andy Hassler all the way to beat Terry Forster for his 5th win of the season. Kansas City remains 4 games in front of Oakland. The A's beat Minnesota 4-2 this afternoon in the first game of a twin bill. Johnny Morris for CBS News, Chicago.
The A's championship experience may be the key to their title hopes.
Kansas City's leading, but I think we're the favorite because I definitely feel we're going to win it. We have men who've been through the pressure, and there is pressure on ball players. There's pressure on that ball clubs, and I feel that if it's head-to-head, the team with the experience will have the better opportunity to come out on top.
We're putting a little heat on them right now, and they're starting to play a little bit panically. And if we can continue to apply the pressure, by the time we meet them, if we can get the games spread down to around 4 games, and we have 6 games remaining with them, I feel that we're very capable of overtaking them.
If the division title is not decided during the 6-game Oakland-Kansas City series, you have to give the edge to the A's and finish out the season with 3 games at home against the Angels. Sherman Egan, CBS News, reporting.
A crowd of nearly 20,000 on hand, hoping for an A's 3-game sweep of the series. But the Royals started things out early on A's starter Paul Mitchell, Hal McRae with a 2nd inning single to left field right there. And John Mayberry rifled a single to right, putting runners at 1st and 3rd. After a line drive double play, Cookie Rojas was the next batter, and he dropped a perfect bunt. You just can't call it anything but that. McRae scored easily the 1st run of the game. In the 3rd inning, Freddie Patek opened up with a double to left. Major League shortest player right there. Just about 5'6". Tom Poquette then laid down another super drag bunt to the right side. Runners safe now at 1st and 3rd. Now, Amos Otis, who had been 1 for 26 lately, then lofted a pop fly double down the right field line, and that scored Patek with a second run. Otis later homered. George Brett bounced out, but Poquette scored. Larry Gurra, making just his second start of the year, held the ace to just 4 hits, and Oakland now trails by 3.5 games.
Montefusco retired Jerry Royster on a fly ball to right fielder Bobby Mercer for the final out. Only a walk to Royster back in the 4th inning deprived the Giant pitcher of a perfect game. The outspoken Count had carried on a running feud with former teammate Willie Montañez this season. He'd also called Giants manager Bill Rigney a loser earlier in the year. But on this night, all the hard feelings were forgotten as Montefusco celebrated his gem with a bottle of the Braves champagne.
Count, that champagne was supposed to be for the Braves fans tonight. I don't think Ted Turner had any idea that you'd be drinking it at the end of the game.
No, but it's the perfect ending of a perfect day, I'll tell you. This is great. I got to thank him for the champagne.
Did you think you had it all the way? When did you start thinking no-hitter?
I started thinking no-hitter. I thought about it after the 5th inning. I said, I got a chance for it, and if I get by the 5th, I think I can go for it.
Probably the hardest hit ball against you was Murphy's line drive in the 8th. Were you at all concerned that might go through for a hit?
I thought it was all over right there. I couldn't see where the ball was going because I was kind of turning the other way, but when I turned around, I saw it was right at Perez, and my heart stopped beating for, like a second because it was right at him.
Montefusco says there'll be no more pitching for him this season. He's going to savor this one all winter. Jim Henderson for CBS News, Atlanta.
It's a perfect day for a ball game. The sun is shining, the teams are ready, and the fans are... Wait a minute. Where are the fans? For Sunday's Ranger-Kansas City game, about 4,500 customers showed up. This means over 31,000 seats had the day off. But it was not always so for the Rangers. On July 6th, the team was 3.5 games out of first place and had drawn 800,000 people. Since that time, they have won 28 and lost 56, and attendance has been cut in half.
It's not a whole lot of fun to play before 3,000 people. Whenever earlier in the season we had 25,000 people out, but the 3,000 or 4,000 people that are coming out are the true fans.
But there are a few loyal fans who come out no matter how bad things get. These fans are more concerned with the game than the score.
I love it. I can eat it and sleep it.
How many games have you missed since the Rangers have been here?
I've missed 5 games in 5 years.
When don't you like to come to the park?
Oh, I like to come all the time. There's one night or one day, whichever they have it on, is bat night for the kids, and I just can't stand all that racket.
But the racket is gone now. Left are empty corridors, lonely salesmen, and the loyal guard who will remain to the end. Bill O'Reilly for ABC News, Arlington, Texas.
Well, I don't think I'll be nervous. That's the only thing. That's the only advantage I see. When you go out there, they still got bats in the hand. They're going to try to hit the ball. They're not going to give up. And the main thing, I think we've got 1 or 2 guys over here that's been in before, and probably they got 1 or 2 guys. But when you get out there, it's like 3 out of 5. It's almost like do or die. You got to do it all in 1 or 2 games, and that's it. And it just puts the pressure on you a little bit more.
Larry Gurra, who came to Kansas City in a trade earlier this season with the Yankees, earned the start for the Royals after pitching a 4-hit shutout against Oakland a week ago. Does Gurra have something to prove against the Yankees?
Oh, I was thinking about that. People were asking me that. I don't feel I have to prove anything to anyone now. I think I've done that already. As far as getting traded and you're playing a team that traded you, every player when he gets traded and he plays that team, he always wants to show them a little bit extra. But I don't feel I have to prove anything to anyone now.
Yankees manager Billy Martin is still upset about the artificial playing surface at Royal Stadium. He says he hates the stuff, and it's a real shame because Kansas City used to have the best grass in baseball. The Royals now have the only artificial surface in the American League. Jack Harry for CBS in Kansas City.
Next pitch grounded in the hole, a base hit. Coming up in the ball is Johnstone. He fields it. The throw to the plate is not in time, and a run scores. And here's the 1-1 pitch. It is lined right at the first baseman, Richie Allen, and he does not hold on to the ball. 2 runs to score. Rose coming in from third base. Behind him, it's Ken Griffey, and the Cincinnati Reds take the lead by a score of 3-2.
Nolan back to Schmidt.
and he hits a hard smash down the left field line. It'll be extra bases. Schmidt on his rounding turn at first base moves on down to second with a stand-up double. So Mike Schmidt gets the first extra base hit, and the Phillies have a runner at second base with no one out, and the batter coming up is Greg Luzinski. Luzinski was struck out his first time up. It was on a check swing. He did not think the ball was in the strike zone, and he was trying to hold up, but couldn't, and went too far around. Greg with 2 hits and 8 times up. One of the hits, a tremendous home run. So now a runner at second base and no one out. The first scoring threat of the ball game, and the first pitch to Luzinski is in there, a called strike. It was over the inside corner, right above the knees. Nolan, in the course of a season, gave up 28 home runs. Now the 1-strike pitch. Luzinski swings and misses, and the pitch might have been low. When Nolan was out of action for those 2 years because of the bad arm, and then they had the arm operation by Dr. Frank Jobe, and he said that he could make a comeback. Sparky Anderson said if Nolan can pitch, it's like getting a free catfish hunter. That was the year Catfish got $3,800,000 to sign with the Yankees after being declared a free agent. There's a ground ball foul off to the left side. So the count stays at strike 2. Luzinski stands with a narrow batting stance, has a very quick swing. They call him the Bull, and he is all of that. Once again, Nolan sets up, and once again, the 2-strike pitch, and there's a drive to right field. It's off to the right side, and by Griffey, the right fielder, 1 hop off of the wall. Schmidt comes in to score. Luzinski trying for 2, and he slides in safely. Lines
4 when George Foster homered and made it 6-5. And then Reds catcher Johnny Bench came through with another home.
Here's the 1-2 pitch coming up, and Bench drills it to left center field. We may have a tie ball game. Going back, gone! The Reds trying to clean it up in 3 straight. Phillies desperately trying to hang on. Tommy Underwood ready again. Checks, and here's the pitch. Griffey chops it toward first. Tola bobbles it. The ball game is over.
Hunter works with 2 men on, and Patek slaps one in the air to right center field. Could be trouble. It's in there for a base hit. Gets away from Rivers. Mayberry scores. Rojas comes on to score. The throw comes in, and winding up at second base is Patek. Martinez sends a ground ball up the middle. That's a base hit. Patek comes on. He'll score. It's 3-0. Martinez singles sharply on the ground in the center. Royals 3, Yankees nothing. We're in the bottom of the second in game 4. Here it is. Curveball, high drive, right field, way back. There she goes. Home run, upper deck, Greg Nettles. Kansas City 3 and the Yankees 2. McRae at second base. Nobody out. The Royals leading 3-2 and looking for more here in the 4th. Hutter works to Quirk. And there's a drive into the gap in center field. That's going a long, long way out to the wall, rolling there to the edge of the warning path. An easy score by McRae. Quirk's going to try for 3. He slides. Triple for Jamie Quirk. And it's 4-2 Royals.
It's a tough series. Our guys are battlers. We didn't come this way, come along this far without battling tomorrow and win. We're very confident. We're a good ball club. All of a sudden, we might bust loose. We haven't really bust loose yet. We might just bust loose and get about 5 or 6 ourselves. If you know, the last 3 games we played with them, they've been 3 and 2 runs ahead of us every time.
And according to Royals outfielder Hal McRae, getting the lead is something that Kansas City has shown they can do against New York, and there are other reasons for them to feel good about tonight.
We've beaten their best, the guy they had confidence in, the big gun, so to speak, and the guy that they're pitching tomorrow, regardless of who it is.
Ambles 2 for 4. Littell looks him over. Winds and throws, and there's a long drive to right field. This may be the end of the pennant. Let's see, it is up and gone. The Yankees win the pennant as Chris Chambliss hits a home run, and the Yankees win the pennant 7-6. Chambliss is being tackled between second and third. They've got to let him cross home plate. He is being mobbed by people. He has got to be allowed to touch the bases and get to home plate. Chambliss is clambering over people, heading for home, and home plate is unguarded. He has not even touched home plate, and he goes into the safety of the dugout. Chambliss has won the pennant for the New York Yankees on the first pitch in the bottom of the ninth inning.
Swung on, driven deep to right field. That ball is going. It is gone. And the Cincinnati Reds lead 1-0.
And the ceremonial trot around, all three. Joe didn't steal a base, he just stole a march on the World Series headlines, and he takes his cap off and salutes his cohorts here in the stands, and they just love it in the Cincinnati.
2-1 to Piniella. Swung on line, base hit down the right side. It'll go in the corner. Piniella around first base, digging for second. Up with the ball is Griffey. He gets it in, but not in time. So here's the 3-1. Swung on it deep to center. That should get a run in. Going back is Geronimo. He's on the edge of the warning track. He makes the catch. Piniella tags at third base. He'll score easily. And we've got a tie ball. 2-1. Line left center. Base hit. It might go through. It won't go to the wall. Concepcion around first, digging for second. Round second. He'll try for three. The throw there is going to be close, and he's safe. Again by Alexander. The 2-0 to Rose. Swung on, hit in the air, center field. That'll be far enough to score a run. Rivers back, he's got it. Tagging at third base and scoring easily is Dave Concepcion, and the Reds lead 2-1. Oh, Griffey now down at second, 2 outs, and here's Tony Perez, the first baseman. Line, base hit left field. Griffey around third, he's going to score easily, and the Reds now lead at 3-1. Tony Perez jumping on the first pitch of Joel Alexander and singling in the hole. Here's the 1-0 to bench. Swung on line, deep to right field. That ball is gone up against the wall. Bounces back in, gets past Maddox. Around third base is Foster. He's going to score. And Fitz digs into third base with a triple. And the Reds lead it 4-1. Here's the 0-1 to Geronimo. Outside, blocked by Hudson now. He can't find it, and Fitz will score. Reds now lead 5-1. We'll see if that's a wild pitch or a pass ball. Wild pitch. Wild pitch charge to Sparky Lau. Reds now lead 5-1.
He was pitching against Sutton. In the second inning, he's really struggling. He finally gets out of the inning. He's ahead 4-1. And when he come in, I took him upstairs. I said, you come on up with me, because he was all excitable. And I set him down in a room that has some trunks in it, right at the end of the runway going up into the clubhouse. And I told him, I said, let me tell you something right now, and let's get it straight. You are a major league pitcher. You are every bit the pitcher Don Sutton is. I don't care that he has a name. When you go out there in the third inning, you look across that dugout and you just thumb it at him. The party's over. You're ahead 4-1. It isn't going nowhere. I don't ever want to see you again get yourself excited over the Dodgers or anybody else. If Don Sutton's any better pitcher than you, he wouldn't be behind 4-1. And from that day on, this boy was the best pitcher for the Cincinnati Reds in 1976.
Take it home, cash it all in ones, and he'll throw it all over on the bed and jump right in the middle of it. And then I think I might buy a couple of cans of dog food for Bronco, and then I'm just going to try to invest it or save it or just sit around and count it all winter or something. Have fun with it.
Tell us about Bronco.
Well, that's my dog. Bronco's a German Shepherd. He's just like me. I can't put any weight on either one of us.
At the beginning of the year, we're going on the road. He said, couldn't I take my dog on the road? And I said, your dog? He said, yeah. I said, what do you want to do with him? And why do you want him on the road? He said, because I get homesick for him. I've heard of wanting to take broads on the road.
The Red Machine has moved into Yankee Stadium with all the confidence of a winner. Leading the series 2-0, the Reds see no real problems in converting to natural turf and facing the cold weather.
It's very cold, and I don't like to hit in cold weather because I don't like to hit with batting gloves on because I don't feel the bat as well as I do without them. But, it's going to be the same for everybody, and the conditions are the same. It'll be cold for the Yankees, too. They're not immune to the cold, and so we're going to be battling under the same conditions.
And Red starting pitcher Pat Zachary says he enjoys playing on natural turf. Starting for the Yankees is Doc Ellis. And what about the hitting from such superstars as Pete Rose? He warns, watch out.
I think our ball club's in a good spot because Griffey and myself haven't got a hit yet. We're still 2-0. And what's going to happen when we start hitting with Perez swinging the bat and Morgan swinging the bat, if we start hitting?
Can the Yankees be counted out? They've come from behind over and over again in the past with solid hitters like Mickey Rivers, Thurman Munson, Greg Nettles, and Chris Chambliss. And they're playing in Yankee Stadium.
We have an advantage in us having a left-handed power here, of course, with that short fence in right field. I think we'll have an advantage. Most of the Cincinnati's power is right-handed, of course, except for Joe Morgan. But most of the other guys are right-handed, and we have a long fence out there you can see in left field. So maybe we can kind of take advantage of that.
But the name of the game is scoring more runs, a factor that's troubled Yankee skipper Billy Martin.
Well, I think the difference is going to be our base hits. We've got to get some hits here, get something going. We've hit the ball pretty well over there, but didn't have too much luck, and we need a little luck and a lot of hits. I've been in this position before as a player. We've been down 2 games, and we end up winning the World Series, so this is something that you can't come back from. It's just a question of pushing yourself a little harder and realizing you're in a tough World Series, you're playing a good ball club, and you have to play hard in order to win.
Dan Dreesen, who doesn't play regularly for Cincinnati, began the Reds' attack when he beat out an infield single in the top of the second. George Foster then stepped up and drove a double to deep right center, scoring Dreesen, who had reached second on a wild pitch by Yankee starter Doc Ellis. Foster then crossed the plate himself when Cesar Geronimo reached safely, just surviving the second end of a double play. Dave Concepcion's searing single to left brought around Geronimo for the Reds' third and final run of the inning. Dreesen, who wouldn't be playing except for the designated hitter rule, put Cincinnati on top 4-0 with a solo home run to right. The Yankees began to scratch back in the fourth when Chris Chambliss slapped a single up the middle, went to second on a walk, and scored when Oscar Gamble singled off the Reds' rookie pitcher, Pat Zachary. The Yankees' second run of the night came when Jim Mason, who hit 1 home run all year, put one in the right field seats. But the Reds were too overpowering. They scored 2 more runs in the 8th, one when Johnny Bench scored on a double to deep right. The final score, Reds 6, Yankees 2. Doug Poling, CBS News, New York.
Shading and maybe 2-3 steps toward the gap in left center. That one is hit back into shallow right center. Morgan racing back. He can't get it. Griffey comes up with the ball, and Munson with a 2-out single. That one is hit over Concepcion into left center field. That's going to score a run, possibly. Geronimo up with the ball. Now they're going to wave Munson to the plate. Here comes a throw, and it's not going to be in time. New York has drawn first blood. The Yankees won, the Reds nothing. Kansas City Royals line drive over Stanley's glove, base hit. They're going to wave Morgan to the plate. Roy White will throw on to second base, and the Reds have tied things up here at 1-1. Foster at first, Bench at the plate. Swung on a long belt to left field. If it stays fair, the Reds have gone out in front. Home run, Johnny Bench. And Bench with a prodigious shot to left. His first long ball of this World Series, and the Reds have bolted out in front 3-1. Here's a pitch to Bench. Swung on and hit deep left field. That might be his second of the game. It's gone, a home run.
Johnny Bench with his second home run of the night. The ball bouncing out of the stands in left field. Roy White trying to decoy him, but the left field umpire, Lou DeMiro, was out there signaling home run, and Johnny Bench has been the man of the hour for the Cincinnati Reds tonight as he homers for the second time, and the Reds now lead by 4 runs at 6-2. Swung on, high fly ball to left center, should do it. There's Foster, and the 1976 World's Championship belongs to the Cincinnati Reds. In the 9th inning, the Yankees are out in order as the Reds in this 4th game in sweeping. Billy Martin's New York Yankees do it decisively, 4 in the 9th inning, and a 7-2 final score.
Following last night's World Series clincher, the Cincinnati Reds look more like a team in search of a new challenge. Back-to-back World Series championships, a 4-game sweep for the New York Yankees, were apparently not enough to raise the roof off the clubhouse. When the Superstars talked about the greatness of their team, some might suspect they were instead talking to the Reds front office about their requests for big raises. Those lining up already include Joe Morgan and Pete Rose.
It's just a great feeling. We feel we got the best team in baseball. We want to prove it. We had the best record in baseball this year, 102 wins, and we beat a great team in the Phillies in 3 games in the playoffs, and we come right here and win the American League champions in 4 games. So, we played. It seems like this year was one of those years we played good when we had to.
What's the next goal, Joe, for Joe Morgan and the Cincinnati Reds?
Well, to win 3 world championships and to come back and have you guys around me at this time again next year. So we'll just have to wait and see. And if all of our team stays together, which is you never know, then we'll be here next year at this time. So we'll just have to see what happens.
There's something I can't explain to you that is here that isn't in other places. It starts in our front office, it starts in our farms, and it starts all over. This organization, believe me, is a dynasty as an organization. I don't say it's a dynasty as a baseball team because I don't think we'll ever see those anymore.
Contract talk is like hanging out dirty laundry, and the Reds, with their intense pride, won't let anything damage their image. That includes comparisons with the Yankees. If you ask the Reds to compare themselves with the champion Yankees of old, they smile and answer, "We're the best now," and you can't argue. Sam Chulin, CBS News, Yankee Stadium.
When you look back, what goes through your mind?
Well, you're looking back 8 months. For 8 months to get where we got to is a pretty good year. And then to lose in 4 straight is embarrassing. And I'm not too happy about that.
Do you really feel that the Yankees, that you and the Yankees were embarrassed?
Yes, we are. Because we're a better ball club than we showed in the World Series.
Would you, looking back, would you have done anything different as a manager, maybe to get a win out of it somewhere?
I'd like to look for an excuse, but there's none. So I can't.
It's going to take a long time to wear off, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I was raised by a very proud woman, my mother, and truth is something we've lived with all our life, and you just can't turn it on and turn it off like a light switch.
Where do you go from here now, Bill? What do you think the Yankees are going to need?
Well, we've got some trades going on that are really super, and I think with the next 3 weeks, you're going to find out that we're going to be probably the strongest team in the American League or in the National League. I can tell you this. We're looking for the type of power that we may eventually move Yankee left field in just a little bit. We've got some trades going on that are really super, and I think with the next 3 weeks, you're going to find out that we're going to be probably the strongest team in the American League or in the National League.
Can you give us any hints as to what's going on? What are you looking for? Okay.
Well, I can't give you any hints at all because it would mess up our trades. Well, I can tell you this. We're looking for the type of power that we may eventually move Yankee left field in just a little bit.
Were you surprised that you did so well?
No. I wasn't surprised we did well. I was surprised we did so bad in the World Series. I wasn't surprised at all we did well during the season. We've got good players. We just didn't play good in the World Series.
Who would you say was the key to your success this year as a player?
25 players.
25 players. That's what the name of the game is, isn't it?
That's exactly what it is. You know, you just can't rely on 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 players. The secret of the Yankees being a success this year is because all 25 contributed. And that means all 25. That doesn't mean 1, 2, 3, or 4. They all did the job, and that's why the Yankees were successful, and that's what's called team effort.
And knowing Billy Martin, you want to get back to that series next year, don't you?
I sure like to. I like another shot at it.
The whole team has nothing to be to feel bad about. I remember we had a real good team one year, and we played the Brooklyn Dodgers, and they beat us 4 in a row. We was favored every game and for the series, and they still won it 4 in a row. So anything can happen in a game of baseball, and they just proved it. I think Cincinnati is a real good ball club, and probably a great ball club. I think they have to keep on proving it, you know. You can't just win 2 World Series in a row and say I'm the greatest, you know. I think next year the Yankees will beat them if they get against them again.
I want to ask you this. Tony Kubek made a statement that out of this year's team, the only one that could probably play for the 61 Yankees would be Catfish Hunter.
Well, I think Nettles and Munson and Chambliss would certainly, if they didn't make the team, they'd be right in there keeping the other guys hustling and trying to stay out, keep them out of there. I think that Catfish is a great pitcher. Tony says a few things on there sometimes I don't really agree with. I think that, well, really, I'm not one of the old-timers that don't think baseball's as good as it used to be. I think the players nowadays are just as good. The only thing that I would say detrimental is that I think maybe they are getting too many players. You know, I think if they would take all the players today in both leagues and put it back down to eight teams in both leagues, that all 8 teams would be as good as the teams that we played on.
Pitcher Don Gullett. Outfielder Joe Rudy. Power hitter Reggie Jackson. They are now in charge of their professional destinies. It used to be, under baseball's old reserve clause, a player was owned for life by his team unless he was traded or sold, but no more. Thanks to their union and recent court victories, 24 major leaguers have become free agents. They have elected to play out their contracts and options, then sell their services to the highest bidder.
Montreal selects Reggie Jackson.
It's called the re-entry draft. The first step happened in New York today when the team owners gathered to bid for negotiating rights. The 3-time champion Oakland A's presumably had the most unhappy players. The club lost 6 to the talent grab.
There's no question about it. It's the worst thing that has ever happened to baseball. I don't see any good out of it at all. When I walked in here, it just reminded me, look down here on this, down below here on this main floor from the balcony. It looked to me, reminded me of a den of thieves out to cut one another's throat.
But the players on the auctioning block disagreed.
It just puts a lot more organization in. I didn't like it at first when I first heard about it around July and August. But the more that I hear about it, you know, you could probably do a lot better financially if everyone was running rampant to you, but would be utter chaos. And at least this does keep some kind of fashion, or keeps some kind of balance.
Before today's draft, most of the team owners were saying it would cause longer contracts, higher salaries, maybe even higher prices for tickets. But now, with the sensitive negotiations actually beginning, the official owner attitude seems to be, let's wait and see. Gerald Harrington, CBS News, New York.
The Pittsburgh Pirates today traded catcher Manny Sanguillen and an undisclosed amount of cash for Chuck Tanner, manager of the Oakland A's, who will pilot the Pirates to what he says will be a World Series berth next year. He was introduced at a Pittsburgh press conference tonight by general manager of the Pirates, Harding Peterson.
The manager of the Pirates for 1977, Chuck Tanner.
I'm where I want to be in Pittsburgh. I think I was fortunate enough to be able to come to one of the finest organizations in all of baseball, and I know that Pete and I are going to do what Joe Brown and Danny Murtaugh has done in the past.
It was cold outside in Pittsburgh with snow flurries blowing, but it was a warm welcome for the new manager as the scoreboard at Three Rivers lit up. Welcome, Chuck Tanner. Bill Curry for CBS News in Pittsburgh.
The New York Nets loss is the Philadelphia 76ers gain in the presence of this man, Dr. J. Julius Erving, who announced tonight he has signed with the 76ers, leaving the Nets, signing a new 6-year contract reportedly for $500,000 a year, the kind of money New York owner Roy Bowe either didn't want to pay or didn't have. Erving says promises in New York made to him were never kept.
You know, I had been verbally promised certain considerations that weren't lived up to, and that the point in time when training camp was supposed to start, I had been given no indication that, or no guarantees that they would be lived up to, and I felt as though I have a right
whether I'm contracted or not, to either play or not to play. If I choose not to play, then I choose not to be paid. You know, this isn't slavery, and no one can drag a player onto the court and make him perform.
The 76ers open their season with Irving and with increased ticket sales tomorrow night against San Antonio. Ted Leitner for CBS News, Philadelphia.